One of the other things I want you to see on the cylinder head, look how clean the good running cylinder is. And look how dirty the bad cylinder is. It wasn't getting oil. It was starved for oil for whatever reason, and trashed that engine out. The interesting thing is, you've got your oil line still attached. You know, it's here. It's still attached. And I don't see it being pulled off, coming off. So, possible blockage in the hose? I don't know, but that's what I'm going to have to check for. Now, when I bleed this, that's when there's your bleeder to get all your air out of your oil lines when you're doing this. That screw right there. Like I say, you can turn this thing over, get it to run your oil up like you want. But turn it over with a drill, take the pump off, turn it over with a drill to get everything primed. You can do it that way. You can do it with the starter. If you do it with the starter, make sure you've put some fogging oil or something in the cylinder to lubricate all the going up and down. Leave the spark plugs out of it until you see, which I'm going to have the yellow, I forget the name of the product. I'll change these lines and you'll be able to see it turns a yellow-green color with the blue fluid running through it, and you can see when it makes it to the carburetor. Now, there could be a problem actually in the carburetor itself that caused this problem. So that means taking the carb off and rebuilding that carb, because that cylinder wasn't getting oil for some reason. So it isn't just, oh, okay, let's fix the cylinder. It's let's find out why this cylinder was not getting oil. It could have been a split oil line. Somewhere down in here, there could be a split down at the pump, because I do have 2-cycle oil in the hull. Always not a good sign. When you see that blue or whatever color oil you're running in your hull, you've got a problem and you need to stop and you need to address it. All right, enough for that. Let's get to work. So I rotated my engine. That's my bad cylinder, and the walls look pretty good. The walls look pretty good. Look, check this out. I did hook the battery back up. He was saying broke rod. I do hear something knocking a little bit. Huh. Well, could be worse, I guess. We'll see. I'll be able to see the connecting rod and see if it's loose. It sure sounds like something's a little sloppy in that back cylinder. Hear that little knocking? Something's loose. Not this cylinder. And I did spray some lube around that, so that while I was running it wouldn't. But yeah, you can see this one's lubing nicely. All right, sounds like we may have problems in the bottom end. We'll see. Okay, I've got the 8 bolts out, and this still doesn't freely pull up. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and hopefully you can see it, center screen. Let me get my little pointer device here. I can show it. Your pistons on a 2-stroke engine have this arrow on them. It's right there at the tip of my screwdriver. That arrow is always going to point toward the exhaust side of your engine. This is your intake side. Now, why is it called that? Because that's where the gas, the fuel, is coming into the engine. Exhaust side, that's where all your exhaust, fumes, gases, what have you, they're going out. In, out, in, out. Arrow on your pistons point to the exhaust side. And the piston rings for these 2 strokes, they usually have there's a pin in the piston. Let me grab a piston and I'll show you on my Kawasaki. Okay, so I have a couple of Kawasaki pistons out of my 1100 that I'm working on. And you will notice this one, this was my problem child on my Kawasaki. You can see all of the scoring where this piston was running without the two-stroke oil. This cylinder was not getting the oil that it needed. It can be caused usually by the oil line failing, but like I say, it can be the carburetor, which is what I suspect on this 800 that I'm working on, Yamaha, is that the oil isn't getting through from the carburetor because of the line. Either there's a split somewhere in that line, and that's why I've got oil in the bottom, because obviously something's leaking, or the carburetor isn't allowing it. But like I was saying on the pistons, see if we can get this to focus on it. Right there in the center, right above my thumb, that's a lineup pin. Your rings go under that when you replace them, and you'll notice they're offset. Here's the other one. That focus isn't that great, but you can see it in the center of the screen there. That's where your ends of your piston ring meet. I'm gonna see if I can zoom this in a little bit, get it to focus a little better. And the lighting is not so great out here either, but there we go. That's a little bit better. You can see there's a pin there. I've heard of that coming out and damaging the engine on some crappy pistons, so you got to watch what you get. But I want you to notice, and I'll show you a ring that's out in a minute. Those rings taper. They're not, in other words, they don't have a straight edge. They have a tapered edge that fits under that pin. Here's a ring. If it'll focus on it, let me see. Get this down here. Yeah, I've got them upside down. But these edges, let's go some more focus here. Let's see if I can get anything any better there. It's kind of hard dealing with this. There, that's a little better. You can see on that piston ring, when I offset it and you get the white background, you can see there's a tapered edge. Now that tapered edge goes under that alignment pin. So there's the pin on a piston that doesn't have a ring in it, and I damaged these pistons messing around with an impact wrench, and I had to replace them. Anyway, you would get your piston ring, and I really need a stand to do this. My tapered edge, you start it, horrible. If I can get that to focus on that tapered edge, you start it there near that pin. And work your ring on. Boom, boom, two hands pop. And these are old rings. These cylinders had decent compression, but like I say, when I tear down an engine, I'm going to replace these components because I don't want to go back in there. But those tapered edges meet at that pin, and that's on the two strokes. Also, to remove the wrist pin, which is this piece that I'm poking out of the cylinder, the piston there, that's the wrist pin. There's a clip, they call it a circlip, that holds, I mean, it's a tiny little nothing that holds this inside this engine. I've heard of those failing, but you will notice, if I can back off just a little bit, and I'm going to set this down and show you. I use, on these two-stroke engines, you've got a relief. You've got a relief right here. So you can get your little screwdriver under there and pop that ring out. Now those rings are C-shaped. I should have brought one out here. Like if you hold a C And let me zoom back in out so we can see this. They're C-shaped like this. Now, I've seen a Honda video where they were building a Honda. You know, there's lots of videos on YouTube. I highly suggest you watch several videos before you attempt doing this stuff. They say to leave the C open for the Honda engine now. They say to leave it open in the 12 o'clock position, which would be up like this, or the 6 o'clock position on the Honda 2-strokes. Now, I have heard with some of the Kawasaki, the forums, they say run that thing in the 12 o'clock position all the time. So you're always leaving this clip up. I don't know if you can get, it's hard to get these angles, but this clip is off-centered. I can get this thing zoomed in. The camera work's the hardest part, especially when you're trying to do this stuff by yourself. To try to do a good video. So I don't have anyone helping me here, but my opening in this clip is right here. Right here is where the opening is. Now that's supposed to be here at the 12 o'clock position. They say ideally you want it opening up here. Well, you can work these clips around. I'm trying to do this, try to do it in video at the same time is going to be difficult. But you can work these clips around, usually. This one doesn't seem to want to move. Well, I can't move this one. But to get it out, you've got a relief right here. Always best to put a thumb over this while you're working to pry that out, because they call these Jesus clips because they vanish. They come flying out. Wear eye protection. That thing can hit you in the eye. You would not like it. I had one go flying across the shop when I removed mine, and I was trying to be careful. So just know that when you're prying these out, there is a danger of those clips flying. And that's my Piston 101.